Good morning, everyone. My name is Rupsha Mitra, and I'm part of Tech Mahindra Foundation's Research and M&E unit. Let me welcome you all to the 10th edition of SAAJHI SAMAJH, the discussion series of Tech Mahindra Foundation on various topics related to education, employability, and inclusivity, the themes of TMF's work. Thank you for joining us today for a very important conversation on an issue that is extremely relevant. Today, we are here to talk and hear about an extremely important issue that is related to promoting equality and closing the gender gap in the domain of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics that is commonly referred to as STEM. It is now well understood that science and gender equality are both vital for the achievement of the internationally agreed development goals, including the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Over the past decades, considerable efforts have been made in inspiring and engaging women and girls in STEM-related disciplines. However, there still exists a significant gap at all levels. If we look at the data given by the National Task Force on Women in Science Report 2019, the Indian research and development workforce comprises only 15% of women as compared to the global average of 30%. This therefore highlights the underrepresentation and disparity of women in STEM. However, when it comes to pursuing educational avenues, data from 2017-18 and 2019-20 tells us that there has been a growth of almost 54,000 in the number of women in STEM and a decline of about 59,000 in the number of men enrolled in STEM studies, as given by the All India Survey on Higher Education report. This reflects that women are choosing STEM courses, but they're not pursuing careers in it. This divergence, when it comes to professional choices, raises the questions on whether it is a result of deep-rooted social stigma, discrimination, biases, social norms, and expectations that influence the quality of education they receive and the subjects that they study. Therefore, on the occasion of International Day of Women and Girls in Science on 11th February, we seek to explore dimensions of this challenge and understand how we can provide full and equal access to ensure active participation in science for women and girls in order to achieve gender equality and empowerment in this space. These are the questions that we will debate to find answers to in an exciting panel discussion today. Before we start the session, I would like to inform the audience regarding some ground rules that we will follow throughout today's session. The audio option for all audience members has been disabled to avoid any external disturbances. If you do wish to contribute to the ongoing discussions or ask questions, please communicate the same in the Zoom chat box. You may direct the questions to my colleague Ghulam Mehdi Shah, and you may find his name as Q&A Ghulam on the participant list. To help maintain sufficient network bandwidth and minimize distractions, we request all attendees to keep your videos disabled for the duration of the meeting. We are now ready to start. This is your host, Rupsha Mitra from Tech Mahindra Foundation, extending a warm welcome to all of you once again. I would now like to invite my colleague Deepti Gaur to make a brief presentation on Tech Mahindra Foundation and its work. Deepti, over to you.
Thank you, Rupsha. Good morning, everyone. I, Deepti Gaur, working as Project Manager ITI, will like to brief you about Tech Mahindra Foundation work. Established in 2006, the foundation works with a vision of empowerment through education in the thematic areas of employability, education, and disability. Disability and women empowerment are cross-cutting themes for us, and the foundation mandates that at least 10% of our beneficiaries will be persons with disabilities and over 50% will be women. TMF operates with a fine mix of partner-implemented projects where we work with a number of NGO partners across 11 locations. Not only that, we have a significant direct implementation portfolio. Coming to our programs, within employability, SMART, which is Skills for Market Training, is our flagship program, launched in 2012. It is implemented through NGO partners with a strong presence in the community. Smart centers are engaged in skilling youth through structured training and help them to get dignified jobs thereafter in the formal sector. Under this program, there are smart centers training youth for the service industry, Smart T that offers technical courses, and Smart Plus, which are for the persons with disabilities. Following the success of smart centers, the foundation launched the Smart Academies, which are our directly implemented projects. The academies offer advanced, diploma, and long-term courses in sector-specific training in healthcare, digital technologies, and logistics. We are proud to say that our alumni from these healthcare academies and centers serve the nation as COVID warriors. The 3 academies for digital technologies skill youth for the technologically advanced world. They are based out of Vizag, Hyderabad, and Mohali. And along with these, we have 1 academy for logistics in Vizag. Moving to our education programs, we have Arise, which is all-round improvement in school education, where we work with municipal corporations and partner organizations to develop primary schools into model schools of excellence. We also have Arise Plus, which is a special program for children with disabilities. We are presently working with approximately 40 schools across the country. Our second major education program is Shikshantar, committed towards creating happier and safer classrooms by capacity building of teachers, school inspectors, and other stakeholders. In Delhi, we are running 3 in-service teacher education institutes working in collaboration with Delhi Municipal Corporation. We are proud to state that this year we'll be completing 10 years of successful operation at ITI Dilshad Garden Center. All these institutes design and deliver training in close coordination with education department. And over the years, these institutes are evolving into the hub of research work within the education vertical. Mobile Science Lab is another initiative in the area of education in association with the Municipal Corporation of Delhi. It is a bus that visits MCD schools as a traveling laboratory for the environmental studies subject taught in the primary schools. Post-pandemic, there have been a number of significant interventions to raise awareness about child safety, social emotional learning, mental health, digital literacy, and cybersecurity. Moving to the numbers, over the years, the foundation has touched and impacted beneficiaries across location through all these programs. As figures are there on your screen, in total, 3,32,732 direct beneficiaries are served with due diligence all through these years. So that is all from my side for now. Thank you, everyone. Rupsha, over to you.
Thank you so much, Deepti. Now, to set in motion the proceedings for the day, let me invite the Chief Executive Officer of Tech Mahindra Foundation, Mr. Chetan Kapoor, to share a few words and to formally welcome our extremely distinguished guest and keynote speaker, Dr. Madhav Chavan, to this discussion. Chetan, over to you.
Thank you, Rupsha. Once again, a very warm welcome to all the members of our audience today at the 10th edition of SAAJHI SAMAJH, Tech Mahindra Foundation's discussion series that aims to develop a shared understanding on various topics related to our areas of work. The first 2 SAAJHI SAMAJHs were held in the physical mode, and then once we all got used to seminars becoming webinars, we have been doing these virtually. We purposefully choose topics that are quite relevant and significant, but are left relatively unaddressed. The last few editions of SAAJHI SAMAJH have looked at themes such as cyber safety for children, relevance of Hindi and regional languages in the context of social development, integrating social and emotional learning in education and employability training, including disability at the workplace, and eye health for children. I'm happy to share with you that these topics have not just remained as engaging discussions, but we have taken steps to integrate them as interventions or pilot projects within our work with children, youth, and teachers. For example, in the context of today's topic, we recently inaugurated a robotics lab at the Kasturba Balika Vidyalaya, an all-girls school in Delhi that we have been supporting. The theme for today's discussion is one which, to me, is more about gender disparity that exists in our society than it is about science, technology, engineering, and maths. While thinking about this topic, my mind goes back to a fascinating conversation I had many years ago with a group of teachers at one of our projects in Hyderabad, where we are supporting a community-based organization that runs a science academy for teachers near the walled city of Hyderabad. In this conversation, where we were talking about the inadequate representation of girls and women in the STEM disciplines in higher education, one of the teachers mentioned that the root cause is the typecasting that happens in our homes when we choose to give toy cars and toy guns to boys and dolls and makeup kits to girls. Instead of letting them decide what they want, we as adults decide for them. Sadly, this holds good for deciding higher education streams and careers in many of our homes as well. I shall hold my comments here as we have for you today an array of speakers much more qualified to speak on this topic. Starting with the gentleman I'm about to introduce to you, someone who's given shape and direction to the discourse on primary education in India for the last 30 years, and who has shaped my thinking as well, since I've had the good fortune of working closely with him and learning from him during my early years in the social sector. Though he needs no introduction, here's a synopsis of his journey. After obtaining a PhD in chemistry from Ohio State University and serving on the faculty at the University of Houston, Dr. Madhav Chavan returned to India, where he worked in the slums of Mumbai as part of the National Literacy Mission. In 1995, as a result of a UNICEF initiative, he co-founded Pratham to address problems of universal primary education in Mumbai. Since then, Madhav has had the development and has led the development and incredible growth of Pratham, pioneering large-scale innovations to address literacy problems among India's underserved children. He has been instrumental in expanding Pratham's reach from Mumbai to practically all over India and even globally, with Pratham affiliates now active in various developing countries of Asia, Africa, and Latin America. The Annual Status of Education Report, or ASAR, which has been a consistent barometer of foundational literacy and numeracy levels in India since 2005, was largely Madhav's brainchild. Named as an Asia Game Changer by the Asia Society in 2014, Madhav also received the 2012 WISE Award instituted by the Qatar Foundation, an award which has been equated to a Nobel Prize for work done in education. Madhav combines his scientific training with his creativity to continually seek innovative ways of educating India's underprivileged children. Friends, let's welcome the inimitable Dr. Madhav Chavan to SAAJHI SAMAJH, who will be delivering the keynote address today. Over to you, Madhav. Madhav, you're on mute. Madhav, you're on, yeah.
Rufsha had muted me. She didn't want me to talk. Okay. So I decided this morning that I'm going to share 3 stories with you and then come to a concluding point. You already know the gender gap in STEM and all that. I don't think I need to repeat that. Deepti Gaur has given a good summary of what the situation is. I want to go back to the day I went to the Institute of Science, which was known as the Royal Institute of Science in Mumbai, not the Institute of Science in Bangalore. for my admission. And in the office, there was a huge photograph of the just immediate past director of the Institute of Science, known as Kamala Sohani. You know, students, 18-year-olds, what do we know? So we used to see that photograph coming and going, but it was much later that it dawned on me that Kamala Sohani was a stalwart in education and the first scientist to secure a PhD from Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, and that she had worked on an important topic like cytochrome C in her PhD. And she was one of the most well-known leading scientists of India. But watching that photograph coming in and out of the office, it did occur to me that this was something really good or something big. I think it's important that we all spread the stories of education, girls' education, women's education, as much as possible, because the stories always inspire, whether they come from the past century or just yesterday. The second story I want to share with you, and Rupsha, you could share that picture if you could, please. This is Anandibai Joshi, Dr. Anandibai Joshi, who got her medical degree from college in Pennsylvania. You can tell which is Anandibai Joshi. Well, don't zoom it so much. We need the Japanese lady as well. So this is a group photograph of 3 women in Pennsylvania. They are all in their national attires. All 3 got their medical degrees. And Anandibai Joshi was barely 22. How did this one young Brahmin girl who had got married at the age of 9, had a child at 14, end up in the United States and get a medical degree? The unfortunate part of the tragedy is that she came back to India to practice. There was a huge welcome to her, but she couldn't practice. She was not the first practicing medical doctor in India. Her story is a huge inspiration. I would highly recommend her story, to Tech Mahindra Foundation if nobody else. Tell people about Anandibai Joshi and what she did. These other 2 ladies you can see, one is Japanese, the other is Turkish. They are also physicians in their own right and first ones in their own country. You can take that away, Rupsha. Stop sharing. Now, this Anandibai Joshi became a medical doctor educated in the United States in 1886. The one that I was talking to you about before got a PhD only in 1939. So the tradition of this kind of technological or technical knowledge and training goes way back in India. It's not as though it just started in 30s and 40s. But you can see that this is happening in certain sections of the society, which is the third story I wanted to share. It is a more recent story, something that I encountered. I saw a young lady in one of the Pratham training centers. We have a vocational training center, much like what you have, maybe a poorer cousin of your centers. But in Ahmednagar, I saw a trainer teaching a whole batch of women welders. They were all young women, and the welder trainer was a woman also. And she came to Pratham as a trainer because she could not. She got herself trained as a welder, but she could not get a job. So we picked her up and said, why don't you train more people as welders? Now, the glass ceiling or whatever career ceiling doesn't only exist in the upper degrees, not only in PhD and engineering. In fact, it is less there than at the bottom of the society. I think we need to watch out for that. People are being told you can't do this, you can't do that. And very recently, we suddenly rejoiced at women taxi drivers, women bus drivers, women train drivers. I think women getting into all kinds of vocations, technical vocations, is a very important part of filling the gap. It is not only colleges and universities. And that one point I wanted to make. So the question is, how do we go about doing this? We are fortunate that we did not face the kinds of war in World War II, World War II, World War I, World War I, World War II. But in those countries, United States, UK, Europe, because of the world wars and the massive number of men who were in the war and got killed, and the requirements of the industry, women came out in large numbers and joined technical vocations. In India, that has not happened. It's not happening even now. Last thing I'll mention, I was just checking numbers, and Rupsha mentioned that 15%, did you say, of women are in technical vocations or whatever.
Yes.
Now, that is a very interesting number. If you ask Google or ChatGPT, if you will, how many percent women are pilots, or how many percent pilots are females, the answer you get is 16%. Okay. Then you ask how many percent women are doctors, you'll get the answer 16%. I have a thing about numbers. So why is this number stuck at 15 and 16% in every case? What is the magic? I think we need to look at that. Why is it 15, 16%? Why not in some cases 50%, and why not in some cases 10%? So looks like 15% is an optimal number, because when you enter an aircraft these days, it is more than likely that there's a woman pilot sitting there as a commander or the co-pilot. But the total number of women pilots is still 16% in India. So I think these are things to be understood, studied, and looked at carefully. I believe I've completed 6 minutes. Rupsha, are you keeping time? I
Yes,
think
sir.
she
If
is.
you wish, you could continue as well.
No. But have I completed 6 minutes or no? I
Yes,
have.
sir.
Okay. So I better stop, because these webinars can get boring if somebody goes on and on and on. So thank you, Chetan, Rupsha, and others for inviting me to speak here. I said I'm not an expert in this subject at all, but batting for 6 minutes is possible. And so I decided to share some stories with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chavan. You could have certainly continued, because there is so much to learn from your insights, your experiences. And definitely, the glass ceiling certainly doesn't only exist in the top ranks, definitely trickles down to our daily lives. And thank you for making us aware about
Okay.
and helping us understand how these challenges look like and what the way forward could be. Certainly hope that this will help to inform the policy roadmap and the community engagement on these issues.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. We are now ready to start with our panel discussion. And for that, let me welcome my colleague and our moderator for this panel, Asif Akhtar. Asif, over to you.
Thank you so much, Rupsha. Good morning, panelists and all the audience present. That was indeed very inspiring keynote from Dr. Madhav Chavan. Sir, I particularly resonated with the idea of telling incredible stories of women in education. You rightly started with Dr. Anandi Joshi and Kish Women, and presently a trainer at Pratham. So let's start a panel discussion. Thank you very much once again, Dr. Madhav, and let me introduce to you all panelists. Beginning with Ms. Purna Mukesh. Purna is an educator, social entrepreneur, and mentor. She taught in various elementary schools in US and Japan. She is the founder member of Kids Who Code, which builds computer literacy and coding skills with over 200,000 students in 22 states in India. We have another esteemed guest, Dr. Chainika Shah. Chainika is an educator, writer, researcher, and queer feminist activist. She has campaigned, researched, taught, and written interesting books that includes Space Segregation Discrimination, The Politics of Space in Institutions of Higher Education, and No Outlaws in the Gender Galaxy. Today we have Mr. Brajesh Kumar Jadon. Brajesh is the principal in a primary school of Municipal Corporation of Delhi. He is a national awardee teacher and closely associated with content development for students and teachers. He has served a number of times in DIET, SCRT, and NCRT as a resource person. Ms. Vasudha Narasimhan is our next guest. Vasudha is alumni of NIT Jamshedpur and Indian Institute of Foreign Trade, New Delhi. She has a strong corporate career of 25 years plus and presently working as Vice President at IIT Madras in alumni and corporate relations to promote industry-academia collaboration with a focus on fundraising for CSR projects and research. So with this, it's high time we talk about what exactly is the scene. And then when we talk about in percentage term, as World Bank report says, that is a global trend of gender gap is huge. It shows 18% of girls enrolled in tertiary level pursuing studies in the field of STEM, as compared to 35% of boys. Rupsha was talking in opening remark that although the condition in higher education in India looks something bright, but when we talk about the women presence in higher education as scientists and workforce as engineers and technologists, we have just 14%, 1/4. That seems to be a very, very huge disconnect. And when we talk about a CEO in the STEM industry, that comes to only 3%. So starting with this, I would like to start with Purna, that given the fact that you have been working with community that has inherent disadvantages in terms of accessing adequate and quality education, what method or strategies you adopt through your novel endeavor, Kids Who Code, that inculcate technical skills, digital literacy, and coding? Purna?
Thank you so much, Asif. I want to make sure I'm not mute. Thank you, Asif, and thank you, Tech Mahindra, for this opportunity to share my experiences. So let me take your question, and I'll break that up into two parts. One is the strategy, and the second is the methods. That was the 2 parts of your question. So as far as strategy is concerned, what we try to focus on is unplugged activities, plugged activities, group and teamwork. And the 4th most important pillar that we include is connecting to the real world, both through what we teach, as well as bringing in speakers and techies into the classroom to engage with the kids. So these are the 4 main strategies that we embrace. And under that, the methods that we use are, because we are starved for resources, we do a lot of unplugged activities where the focus is really on critical thinking, logical thinking for computation building skills. And we could do that in numerous ways. When the kids work on a system, they're normally 2 to 3 kids per system, and that builds the team building abilities. So a lot of focus on soft skills out there. The 4th thing that we do is we bring in guest speakers that talk to the kids about their projects, about how the real world is. And when the kids present their projects, it doesn't matter how simple or how complex the project is, every group stands up and presents. And that encourages the soft skill building, which is so important when they get out into the real world. The kids in the class are encouraged to ask questions. So they really have to think, how do I answer these kind of questions? And what if I don't know the answer? How do I respond? Right? And finally, if they have done something cool, then they can teach. So they become teachers as well. So these are some of the techniques and strategies that we have used to not just teach digital literacy, but also build confidence in the kids. The last point that I just wanted to mention is we do focus on digital safety because our kids don't have that information at home. So if we are encouraging this, it's our responsibility to teach them how to be digitally safe. And the last thing we do is plagiarism, which for us is very, very important. So I hope I've answered that question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Purna. You started very well. In fact, what exactly are the strategies and teaching? But whether in Indian landscape, those opportunities exist in our schools. So let's move to Brajesh ji. Brajesh ji, aapko kya lagta hai? I will be in Hindi with Brajesh ji, and that will be good for the audience as well, because we have a diverse audience. So Brajesh ji, aap bataएं please कि स्कूलों में विशेष रूप से भारत के प्राथमिक कक्षाओं में वैज्ञानिक दृष्टिकोण और जिन बातों की तरफ पूर्ण इशारा कर रही हैं, हम वो वातावरण बना पा रहे हैं? कैसा है स्कूल का वातावरण? ब्रजेश जी। ब्रजेश जी, आप अनम्यूट कर लें। जी
जी जी जी। नमस्कार सभी को। और जैसा कि अभी मुकेश जी ने बताया और उनकी बात को ही हम आगे बढ़ाते हुए, बच्चों के अंदर जो वैज्ञानिक दृष्टिकोण है हम उसको कैसे खास तौर से प्राथमिक स्तर पर, क्योंकि जो हम स्टेम की बात कर रहे हैं वो लड़कियां, वो गर्ल्स और वो वुमेन्स कहीं ना कहीं उन प्राथमिक विद्यालयों से होकर गुजरने वाला उनका पहला कदम है। और जब तक हम उनके अंदर स्कूली लेवल पर यानी प्राथमिक कक्षाओं में बच्चों के अंदर हम वो जिज्ञासा, वो लगन, वो सहेज कर रखें कि उन बच्चों के साथ हम वो एक्टिविटी करें, क्लासरूम में वो एक्टिविटी करवाई जाए जिससे जो बच्चा अपना मन में कोई प्रश्न है वो मरना नहीं चाहिए, उसकी फीलिंग्स को टीचर्स ध्यान में रखे और जो बच्चे की बात है चाहे वो गलत कह रहा है या सही, उसको पूरा रेस्पेक्ट देते हुए सम्मान के साथ हम उसको उन तथ्यों की ओर ले जाएं। तो मैं समझता हूं कि कहीं ना कहीं हम उन बच्चों के अंदर वो जस्टिस कर पाएंगे और जिसको लेकर आज हम इस पैनल डिस्कशन में बैठे हैं सारे लोग और समाज पूरा चिंता कर रहा है कि वो लड़कियां उस पायदान तक क्यों नहीं पहुंच पा रही जहां उन्हें होना चाहिए। तो उनकी सीढ़ी, पहली प्रथम कदम उनका प्राथमिक कक्षाओं से स्टार्ट होता है। जब पहली बार घर से बच्चे घर आते हैं और वहां पर जब अपना पहला कदम रखते हैं तो क्लासरूम का वातावरण एकदम उसके लिए नया होता है। तो क्लासरूम में हमें ऐसे कॉर्नर्स डेवलप करने चाहिए जहां पर साइंस की बात हो, विज्ञान की बात हो, हमें साइंस फेयर की बात करनी चाहिए, हमें साइंस एक्टिविटीज, बहुत जीरो एक्टिविटी यानी बेसिक एक्टिविटी की बात करेंगे जो बच्चे के आसपास से जुड़ी हो, उनसे हम बच्चों को अगर कनेक्ट कर पाएंगे तो शायद बच्चों के जो वैज्ञानिक दृष्टिकोण है और जो बीजारोपण हमें उनके अंदर करना है स्टेम के लिए, वो वहां से स्टार्ट कर पाएंगे। जी
बहुत ही सही है ब्रजेश जी, आपने जो गतिविधियों की बात की और पूर्णा की वो बात की कि प्रश्न पूछे जाने के अवसर देना, तो मुझे लगता है कि ये जो वैज्ञानिक दृष्टिकोण और सारी पहल स्कूल की सतह पर शिक्षक करते हैं, वातावरण बनाते हैं, लेकिन समाज उन चीजों को कैसे देखता है? और मुझे लगता है ये वो पड़ाव है जिसमें आई वुड लाइक टू टॉक टू चैनिका, इन योर लॉन्ग एक्सपीरियंस ऑफ वर्किंग विद सोसाइटी on gender issues. How do you see this, Chanika, that whether the society is receptive enough to take girls towards the STEM career? Chanika?
Thank you, Asif, and thank you, Tech Mahindra, for having us here. I think society is moving towards acceptance, but at the same time, there's a huge but, because I don't think that Indian society per se encourages questioning, especially of adults, especially within families. And especially if you're girls, then there is a teaching within the household, within the classroom, and within the school system that you should be docile, you should listen, you should follow the rules, you should not cross the rules. And I think that these are contrary to what we are talking, to what Prashantji mentioned is, scientific thinking or curiosity. Curiosity requires me to go beyond what I'm asked to do, to break the barriers around me. So I think that unless we do overall education in a manner that we inculcate critical thinking everywhere, it is not going to happen in science. That's one point. And unless school discipline also tries to incorporate this within the culture of the school, that this is not going to just happen suddenly in one subject. It is something that has to happen through the whole process of education. Maybe we cannot go into homes. I mean, I heard Dr. Madhav Chavan speak that maybe in homes we cannot go and change things. Maybe in larger societies we cannot change things. But if education is a transformative process, if we have children with us for almost 11 years or 10 years at least, we are hoping to keep them in school till class 10, then if we have them for 10 years, then education is a good process to start this thinking process and start the transformation in society that will then bring back inquisitive minds and curiosity into individuals that are growing up and becoming part of society.
Absolutely, absolutely. Chanika, what you said is just incredible, because school and then home, then society, and then still the hope is there, but these things are embedded on the notion of critical thinking and whether this idea is ingrained there or not. Vasudha, here I am trying to understand that how do we connect the dots with academia industry? Why do I say so? For the simple reason that you had a checkered career in corporate world, and in that, managers or top managers are not there as percentage and data shows, and you must have experienced yourself. What can we do to improve the participation at managerial or other positions in corporate as well? Vasudha?
Sorry, yeah. No, thank you, Asif, for the question, and thank you to Tech Mahindra Foundation for the opportunity to speak. So, yes, I think what has been done so far in trying to increase the number of student enrollments into tech fields, I think some work has gone into this, and including the IITs, NITs saw the supernumerary seats to be increased for entry level. So women join the workforce, but I think the typical problem that we face is the drop-off such that they do not reach mid-level or higher level careers is probably something where more work needs to go. And I think that at all levels, one important issue to address, whether it's at the audience of girls in schools or colleges or in the workforce, is to create strong role models. Because at the end of the day, I think women need to probably support each other stronger. I think the previous generation of women were kind of fighting for ourselves, trying to stand up there and carve a way. And now that we have a generation of women who have braved it and succeeded in staying there, lasting that journey, that career, I think creating strong role models in the form of maybe mentorship programs in schools and colleges. And here I think we need it to be at more down-to-earth levels. We don't necessarily need an Indra Nui to create that role model. I mean, I'm sure they are there, and there are many global CEOs, including Indians, who have done well. I think we need to create strong career guidance, aspirational, have women alumni of the school or the college to come back and talk to the girls and say, look, I am a police constable. I am an, Air Force pilot. I am doing different things which are not just, science or technology, but doing very diverse things, and to create that aspiration amongst women. Because at the end of the day, this drop-off that we see is not going to stop unless the women believe in themselves. And whether it's society, that family, your organization, everybody can say we are doing A, B, C activities to ensure that number of women is increased. I think we have to fundamentally support women in believing that they can do this and need to do it for themselves, for their own good. And I think for me, that is an important part that we all, as women, as well as society, need to be sensitized and help them to stay in that corporate career or science career, whatever it may be.
Very rightly said, Vasudha, because it is not a matter of percentage participation, rather it is a total, it is a domain to understand that what exactly change can happen. So Brajesh ji, मुझे लगता है कि आपसे इस पर बात करनी चाहिए कि हम किस तरह के रोल मॉडल जो कि पूरे देश में सरकारी स्कूलों की संख्या सबसे ज्यादा हमारे देश के बच्चों को पहुंचाती है शिक्षा, तो उसमें स्कूल में रोल मॉडल कैसे बन रहे हैं? आपके पास कुछ उदाहरण हैं, कुछ बच्चियों के, कुछ लड़कियों के, उनके साथ आपने काम किया होगा, उनमें क्या परिवर्तन देखा आपने?
बहुत अच्छा प्रश्न है आसिफ जी आपका, कि जो बच्चियों के जो रोल मॉडल की आपने बात करी, और जैसा कि मैंने पहले भी आपको अभी बताया था कि जो रास्ता हमारा गुजरता है वो विद्यालयों की ओर से गुजर रहा है। पहली जो चैलेंजेस हैं हमारे सामने, बच्चा जब स्कूल आया तो सबसे पहले तो उन जिस क्लास का बच्चा, जिस समाज से बच्चा सरकारी स्कूलों में आ रहा है, उसको विद्यालय में रोकना, यानी उसका रेगुलर बच्चे का आना एक बहुत बड़ा काम है। हम सारी प्रोसेस वहां से स्टार्ट कर पाएंगे, पहले बच्चा स्कूल में आए तो सही। और अगर बच्चा कब आएगा, जब उसको स्कूल का एक घर जैसा वातावरण मिलेगा बच्चे को। जब बच्चा हमारे पास आ गया, अब बच्चे के आने के बाद हमें सबसे पहले उसके पेरेंट्स की काउंसलिंग बहुत जरूरी है, कि पेरेंट्स बच्चे को वो चीजें समझा पाए, स्कूल की क्या उपयोगिता है। और जब तक हम पेरेंट्स को कन्वे नहीं करेंगे, पेरेंट्स को हम समझा नहीं पाएंगे उन सारी बातों को, तब तक हम कहीं ना कहीं अपने किए जाने वाले प्रयासों में असफल रहेंगे, हम उसमें सफलता अर्जित नहीं कर पाएंगे। पहले तो पेरेंट्स के बारे में मैं अभी आपको एक रिसेंटली एक एग्जांपल देना चाह रहा हूँ, कि अभी 5वीं क्लास की बच्चों को पास आउट करने के बाद कुछ रेजिडेंशियल स्कूल में भेजने की बात गवर्नमेंट कर रही है। खासतौर से दिल्ली सरकार की बात हम करते हैं, एमसीडी स्कूल की बात करते हैं, नवोदय विद्यालय में प्रवेश के लिए, और कुछ रेजिडेंशियल स्कूल है। तो मैंने पर्सनली पीटीएम बुलाई अपने विद्यालय में, बच्चों से बात की, पेरेंट्स से बात की, टीचर से बात की। तो उनका जब बात करने का जो नजरिया आया वो ये था कि रेजिडेंशियल स्कूल में हम लड़कियों को क्यों भेजें, वो हमारे पास यहाँ सेफ है, वो सारी चीज ठीक है। मैंने उन्हें बहुत कोशिश करी, बहुत समझाया कि आप एक बार बच्चे को एग्जाम में तो बैठाओ, केवल फॉर्म भरने का मतलब ये नहीं कि आपका बच्चा वहां तक पहुंच गया, पहले फर्स्ट स्टेप तो हमें उसका क्लियर करना पड़ेगा। और उन बच्चों को वो एग्जाम्पल बताए कि देखो इसमें जो बच्चियां पढ़ रही हैं हमारी 9th में ये स्कोर करी, गेम्स में उनका ये अचीवमेंट है, साइंस की फील्ड में बच्चे ये काम कर पा रहे हैं। तो सबसे पहले जो रोल मॉडल की बात करी है, वो हम बच्चों के साथ कोरिलेट करके उनके पेरेंट्स के साथ जब तक कनेक्ट करेंगे, क्योंकि वो छोटे बच्चे होते हैं, 10 और 12 साल के बच्चे जब 6 में जाएंगे तो पेरेंट्स भी असहज महसूस करता है कि हम इस लड़की को, अपनी बच्ची को वहां कैसे भेजेंगे, कौन इसका ध्यान रखेगा, क्या चीजें कर पाएंगे, क्या वो पढ़ाई बहुत महंगी तो नहीं होगी, जबकि सरकार से अपनी तरफ से सारी फ्री सुविधाएं हैं, मुफ्त में सारी चीज चल रही है, सारी चीज। फिर हम उनको एग्जाम्पल कोट करते हैं कि आपकी बच्ची देखो, अपने परिवारों से उदाहरण देते हैं, समाज की सोसाइटी के, वो लड़की आज डॉक्टर है, वो इंजीनियर है, या बच्चियां पायलट बन रही हैं। तो उनके अंदर, पेरेंट्स के अंदर कहीं ना कहीं ये चीजें टच करती हैं, उनके जहन में ये बात उठती है, क्या मेरी लड़की भी ऐसा कर सकती है। तो फिर उन्हें काउंसलिंग की बहुत नीड है पेरेंट्स के लिए। अगर वहां हमारी बात बनती है, और जब हम उन्हें कुछ एग्जाम्पल सोसाइटी के इस तरह से देते हैं, तो वो बात वहां से स्टार्ट होगी। और जब प्राइमरी से लेके फिर जब बच्चा मिडिल में जाएगा और ऊपर अपर क्लास में जाएगा, ये उसकी चीजें वहां मरनी नहीं चाहिए। प्राइमरी में जो बीज बो दिए गए, वो चाहे सेकेंडरी में, मिडिल में, सीनियर सेकेंडरी में, या और हायर क्लासेस तक वो चीज अगर चलती रहेगी तो ठीक है। तो हम बच्चों को इस तरह से आपस में पेरेंट्स के साथ बैठा के वो कर सकते हैं। और जो मैं आपको एग्जाम्पल कोट कर रहा था, उसका परिणाम ये निकला कि जहां एक भी पेरेंट्स तैयार नहीं हो रहा था, आज वहां पर मेरा गर्ल्स स्कूल है, 12 बच्चियों ने इसके लिए अपना रजिस्ट्रेशन कराया है, और संडे को वो एग्जाम देने जा रही है। तो हमें इस ओर आगे बढ़ना।
बहुत मुबारकबाद आपको, आपको आपकी कोशिशों को सलाम, सैल्यूट। Purna, what Brajesh was talking about was totally based out in his experience of Indian context. What did you see in Japan and US? Whether there is also some kind of deterrence of girls in STEM there? What was your experience while teaching in elementary school?
Thank you for that question. और ब्रजेश जी, आपने जो कहा बिल्कुल बिल्कुल सबका experiences आपने बोल दिए, so thank you for that. The issue of gender discrimination is a global issue. It's not just, secluded to India. The one thing that I found in the US, at least for technology, is that the public schools, जो government schools है वहाँ पे, they have access to computers and laptops. The public libraries have access to computers, laptops, and Wi-Fi. So given the access, children get engaged with technology much earlier. The second thing, to Vasudha's point, a lot of role models come out with videos on social media where kids literally reside today. So they get access to these kind of role models, whether they're from Google, Apple, In fact, Carly Kloss, who's a model, has also talked so much about technology. So kids are inundated with these role models. Now, if I look at India, on the other hand, public schools, some of them do have computers, but they may not have Wi-Fi, or they may not have trained teachers. But I think what worked for India was COVID. And this is what I saw with our kids across multiple states, where whether it was CSR funding, whether it was individuals who stepped up to donate a smartphone, one per family. So today, a lot of our kids have one smartphone per family. And thanks to Geo coming in at the right time, the data accessibility is so much more affordable. So these two created a sort of magic in our experience. And I speak from our experience with our kids. And that I saw was the big changing factor. Indians are used to scarce resources. This is not a new phenomena for us. What is interesting is how we leverage the existing small resources to make huge headway. So a lot of our kids don't have access to the Microsoft Office slew of products because it's a paid service. But can they use Google? The entire Google slew of products. So when kids conduct their meeting, they maintain their minutes on a Google Doc, which they share. We don't teach them. When we did a podcast, they downloaded their app, figured out the app, and did the podcast on their own. So is it possible if we push the envelope, if we teach our kids, I trust you, aap koshish karo, galti hai, koi problem nahi, we all trip and fall. The real key is, given my limited resources, our kids just need the opportunity. They are bright. They embrace it. They will run with it if you trust them and set a slightly higher bar. You know, I used to always say, reach for the moon, you land among the stars, right? Don't go for halfway up the mountain because you'll stay way lower. Reach for the peak and you'll get more than halfway. And, you know, when you trust your kids, they always step up. And that's been my experience in India. So though we don't have the, infrastructure of the West, we have people who are willing to push the boundaries with limited resources. So we too can excel. That's been my experience with our kids. Thank you.
Absolutely, Aparna, because it is living in a scarcity and doing incredible thing is the hallmark of an Indian society, and we have many good examples. Chanika, it brings to you because since you taught physics in Somaiya College, right, in Mumbai, and then you moved to Tata Institute of Social Sciences, did you find that the girls coming from the senior secondary schools and even for masters in tests, what kind of challenges they brought in while studying there, and whether we find their challenges means of scarcity is a motivating force for them? How did you find those girls in your classroom? Would you like to share some stories or you can say inspiring stories? Yeah, Chanika.
So actually, I taught in this college which had first generation learners.
Okay.
And I don't think, I look at my students and I feel most of them were not just studying. Most of them were working and studying. And I don't think our curriculum and the way that we taught accommodated that. We did not, science education, a physics BSc requires students to be in college for a large period of time. We are living in Bombay City. They travel from very large distances and come to the college. They are also working. So, the expectations that we have from these children has to be really worked around the fact that they are doing all of this and they're attending class. I am not sure whether, some of us as teachers may be aware of it and may be paying attention to it. But as curriculum makers, we are not paying attention that this is the category of students who's coming to our classroom. And how do we then make use of that set of students and build their skill sets and build their understandings? So I think that a large public university education, which is geared for, everybody follows the same curriculum, everybody follows the same methods, everybody follows the same assessment methods. My critique has been, and when I came to science education and talking more about science education, my critique has been that we don't need to teach everybody as if they're all going to become physicists. We're not training this set of students who are doing the BSc to go on to do masters in physics. They will take many allied subjects. They will take many things, and that is the imagination that we have to build. That what we are teaching in the BSc, how does it connect to many other things that they will do in life? How does that training in scientific thinking or their understanding of the universe, how does it help them to understand wherever they go after this? And I think that is a lacuna that we face. And so my work in TISS, while talking about science education, has concentrated on what is the science that we are going to teach. You know, one is, yes, get role models. But the second is also that rethink how we are presenting scientists, rethink how we are presenting what doing science means, rethink presenting what science itself is. You know, that there is, if we open out what science is, then there are science journalists, there are science communicators, there are science teachers, there's many people who are doing allied stuff. And somewhere our concentration is on those so-called genius men who have done the breakthrough work. I think that a lot of work has been done by many others. And that also needs to be talked of as science, good science, successful science, and very challenging and very interesting science. And I don't think that was there in my classroom. I mean, in my course, we built, some of us tried to do it in our classrooms. We tried to take them for extra work. But then just imagine, I mean, you have the classroom, you have your employment, and you have to do extra work to get that joy that you are trying to bring to the student about science.
Absolutely. So, Chanika, what you said about the curriculum, and this is the core idea, right? That how it can be situated. So, I am coming to Vasudha now. Would you like to enlighten Vasudha? Did you find that academia, means those things, the contents, what people get in engineering, coming to the corporate world, whether they are having strong biases towards something which needs to be first shed off, that is to be removed, because working in a corporate world is one side of the story, and what Chetan was talking about, social lens, whether the society as a whole accepts the change and whether the challenges we find there only. So where the problem is situated. So how do you see this, whether in the corporate, the people coming from the high or you can say top-notch institutes, and they are reaching, so you work with many people, so they have strong biases about STEM education in girls. And then we will, later on of the discussion, we will talk at how we can bridge the gap.
Yes, Asif. So what I would say is that the bias has probably reduced a bit because there is so much sensitization that is happening, but the bias exists. And because women are a minority, I would say that whilst total percentages, I'm sure there are many numbers which are upwards of 17 and 18 in terms of educational enrollment. But I think in terms of women in the manufacturing sector, that it's less than 12. And in core engineering is just 3 to 4%. And that's probably the bias that, in many of these core sectors, why would you want to go into that job is something that the woman faces in her, her own immediate family, that it will be tough. Why do you want to go for that kind of job? Take something easier. Even if you're an engineer, go for a software job because it is, more comfortable. You don't have to go and stand in a factory and, take more tough physical situations. So the bias exists. And that bias has to be resolved by a little bit more flexibility. Whilst a lot is being talked about, in terms of making it flexible, I think COVID has been the most wonderful part of bringing flexibility into the workforce. And I think that supporting women in bringing flexibility, understanding, that women play different roles in their lives. So they need different kind of leave structure, which may not, you need to give them flexible leave, flexible working hours, is something which we are moving towards. But again, at lower levels, I mean, it's talked about in higher levels of, the corporate world, but right at the entry stage, I think more needs to be done about it. Only then the bias will probably be something that the woman herself can be fighting for. Very often, my own experience has been that as a girl, entering the workforce, we try to conform. We are talking about diversity and inclusion, but because we want to conform to that so-called rat race and be at par with the men, we are thinking like them, we want to compete with them. We do not want to stand up and say that, look, I need this because I'm a woman, I need this. And that itself is part of the bias, because we are not confident of saying this, because we know that we will be discriminated, that promotion will not come. Because we took leave longer, we took a maternity leave, we may have to work harder for an extra year to kind of get the next promotion or the next recognition. So that bias is something which will take a much longer time, and it has to be addressed very seamlessly, not just bringing some 1 or 2 policy measures, but taking it right through, from entry into the workforce and through the journey. A lot of seamless measures have to be done.
Right, Vasudha. So continuing with you only, Vasudha, at this point of time, that how organizations or even the CSR space can play a driving role or drive motivation and creating more platform for women and girls. For example, how do we incentivize them? How do we say that, yes, more girls are welcome in the industry? Would you like to share some incremental things? This is how we can start with. Whatever is being done from the policy perspective, it is there. But how do we play some roles as an organization?
So I think that is very important. So whilst from a government side, there could be free education for women and scholarships, etc. From an organization's point of view, to give flexibility to skill for women who may have dropped out of the workforce for maternity reasons, to provide them the opportunity to skill and come back to the workforce is something organizations need to do, not just for maternity, for so many women who drop out of the workforce. For women pursuing education in science, higher education in science, for instance, PhDs, that's a time of their career when it's also, a PhD is a pretty long duration study, 5 or 6 years, and you need to probably drop off somewhere because the biological clock is also ticking in a woman's life. So support women, in terms of giving them that stipend for PhD or the masters for longer. Give them access to travel. You may, as a woman PhD, somebody may need to travel for a conference. So provide support, and that is where CSR can play in a role, saying, the typical thinking is that a PhD scholar is getting a stipend, but is not getting a stipend for beyond that 4 years or 5 years, whatever it may be. Support the women for longer. Give a woman master's candidate, support to take her child to that conference because she has nowhere else to leave that child. So those are the subtle things which, kind of need to be more flexible, which organizations can do, which CSR can do, other than the basic scholarship and fee waiver, which I think as a country we are doing a lot of it. But I think it needs to go beyond that for, promoting more women in STEM. I think helping women skill up and skill more, paying that fees for an extra cost, which her parent or her husband or her in-laws are not going to allow her, is where we need to look beyond the basic support that we as a country are doing.
That's very interesting. You have really suggested some concrete measures, in fact, and also it connects me with Chanika. Chanika, social enterprises are there, and then how do we make changes? How do we make inroads? Would you like to share some concrete examples that how social participation can be more, and we can connect the dots from the school education to the job roles or even entrepreneurship? So what we need to do as a society?
Actually, here there's a kind of a disconnect or a discord, because on the one hand, we don't want women to be the sole responsible people for domestic chores. We want all family members to be participating in the domestic chores. But at the same time, when we go to the workplace, we also want that, some acknowledgement is given to this person's extra duties at home, and hence there should be accommodation here. And there's a disconnect in these two, which is a disconnect because what we want and what exists are very different things. So there has been a dispute among women scientists, I know, that special leave for women alone, they say that don't do that. Say that there is care leave available for everybody. Because the minute you make it for women, then what Vasudha was speaking, that you have people grudging you that you're getting this something extra in the workspace. And peers do that all the time. I know my colleagues really resented maternity leave, and they resented the person who took the maternity leave. They never questioned the management who did not give us an extra hand for that maternity leave. Right? So the immediate concern and immediate pressure that I feel as an employee, I push it onto the person who is getting that benefit. And so somehow to nullify this, we have to start thinking of all employees as having families, all employees as having some amount of care work. And I think they do. I mean, in my college, in my staff room, all the male teachers used to take leave for their children's science exams in 10th and 12th standard, and that was like lauded. But the women teachers taking, maternity leave was looked down upon. So what we have to start doing is look at all of this as care work, look at all of this as familial responsibilities, and then market as that. Market as that every person is entitled to this. Every person, and hence we make a space in the workspace to say that yes, this workspace is open for those who have other responsibilities as well, and not make it about women and men. And I think in these times, we have to speak of all genders. We're not speaking only of women and men. So we are talking of different kinds of families. We're going to talk of different ways of living. And how are we making those changes instead of staying within this norm that there is this wife and husband, there is the wife who looks after the house, the husband who takes the main economic responsibility, and so on and so forth. So if the workplace ruptures this imagination of the family in more ways than one, it will benefit everybody. It will benefit those who already have those responsibilities. It will benefit those who want to push those responsibilities on the people that they're living with, to say that, okay, you get this leave, you take this and you do this work. So it shifts things everywhere. And hence I think that people are talking about structural changes and not, while changes for women and for certain categories are important and necessary, they will never be sufficient. So we will have to do other kinds of changes which shift notions of gender, notions of, gendered tasks, which shift notions of what families are, what care work is, what nurturing is, and so on and so forth. So I do see that, how do we make those changes is what we need to look at workspaces.
Absolutely, Chanika. So it's very important. What you say connects quite well with how do we bridge the gap. Purna, since you have worked for the personality development of the girls, you have some stories as well as recommendations with you that what do we need to do in Indian education system so that this participation, not only male, female, which Chanika was referring to, even transgenders, even a larger community, everyone should get adequate representation. We talk about equity in education. So what recommendation would you like to give to us as well as our audience that we can have a concrete participation, equitable participation of all communities, of course with the focus of underrepresented communities including women and transgender?
Thank you. Thank you for such insightful thoughts that have been shared by all the panelists. To answer your question, Asif, I'd like to share two examples, one from the US and one from an underprivileged community in Lucknow. I'll start with the US. I was teaching a 4th grade class, and I think one of the panelists talked about our curriculum being so structured and across for all communities, across genders, and so on and so forth. And I never thought about it, very honestly. When I was teaching my 4th grade, one of the chapters in science talked about innovators or inventors. And I honestly hadn't looked that it all were men. But as I was walking to lunch, one of the kids, Emma, she walked alongside me and said, "Mrs. Mukesh, I have a question for you." And I said, "Sure, go ahead." And she said, I skimmed this chapter that we are going to be covering, and all the innovators are men. Are girls and women not allowed to be innovators? This was in the US, right? And I just stopped in my tracks, completely taken aback by her question. And I looked at her for a second, and she looked at me for a second, and I said, "Emma, I want to thank you for asking me that question, because we're going to see that in the upcoming classes." And it was her question that I listened to, thought about. And what's wonderful about the US education system in public schools is teachers have the freedom to make changes in the way something is taught. And so we gave all kids an opportunity. I had 35 kids in my class at that time. Every kid could randomly pick a woman innovator of their choice, learn about that one innovator, and then make a presentation so that we all learned about innovators. And I learned so much from the kids. The globe that we use in our primary classrooms was made by a woman. The car wipers that we can't live without is made by a woman. And so now every opportunity I get that I'm doing something, I will quickly research who innovated this, and I'll throw that tidbit into my class. And the kids get inspired. "Oh, that's so cool, ma'am." To come to India's story, it's a very unusual experience. Taking again from one of our panelists said is, since we work with the bottom of the pyramid kids, after 12th, parents normally say, "Bas ab to padha diya, ab aage aapki, zimmedari, tum jaake kuch kama lo, hame to aur paisa nahi hai aapko padhane ke liye." These kids have taught me this much Hindi, and I'm so proud of all the Hindi I've learned from my kids. So one of the girls from Lucknow, she once sent me a WhatsApp message, and I work with so many kids, I hadn't saved her number. She said, "Ma'am, I have got a seat in BCA, Bachelor's of Computer Applications, and you have always told us that let not anybody tell you that as a girl you can't achieve your dreams. I have a question for you. क्या आप मुझे कोडिंग पढ़ाओगे? मेरे पास लैपटॉप नहीं है, कंप्यूटर नहीं है. I have one smartphone in this family. It is accessible to me only on Saturday or Sunday. मैं आपका जवाब का इंतजार कर रही हूँ." And I was totally dumbstruck. What am I supposed to tell this child? And we went back and forth on WhatsApp. Then I called her up, and I said, "Beta, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself?" And she did shared a little bit. And then she goes on to say, "My mom has sold her jewelry to get me that seat in BCA. Now I'm really keen. I've gone through this program at this computer center, जो आपका content हमने पढ़ा है, और weekends पे I used to go onto YouTube and learn, and now I want to take this to the next level. Can I learn on a smartphone?" And her question, I really listened to a child's question, because they are the ones that tell you what needs to be brought into a class. And along with one of our partner organizations, the techies there, we actually did our first prototype teaching coding on a smartphone using a free app called Decoder. So हमारा पहला prototype चल रहा है with kids in Delhi. One of the ARP schools, 9th graders, and are sitting in Bangalore using online. And all these kids, they use Jamboard. They write the minutes of the meeting on a Google Doc. They share it. And they get access to a mentor every single class. And this is all because one child had the courage to ask me a simple question. So my point is, whether you're rich or you're poor, every one of us has aspirations. If one of us can just listen to that aspiration and say, "Sure, it's possible. Let's explore this opportunity," so many more doors can open up. So I hope I answered your question, Asif.
Yeah, good. So thank you so much. That's this wonderful story of Emma as well as Lucknow girl, and it was it is the truth of the truth of the society that people are doing, they do whatever they can do for the education of their children, and still that question struck you most. ब्रजेश जी, हम इस पर आपसे बातचीत करके ऑलमोस्ट क्लोजर की तरफ चलना चाहेंगे. हमें समय की बाध्यता की वजह से थोड़ा सा हम आपकी तरफ बढ़ रहे हैं. और ब्रजेश जी, हम जानना चाहते थे आपसे, कितनी अच्छी बातें मतलब सभी आप पैनलिस्ट कर रहे हैं. स्कूल में हम और क्या कर सकते हैं, इवन पॉलिसी लेवल इनिशिएटिव में, जो बहुत ही जिससे हम ड्रिवन होते हैं. पूरा हमारा शिक्षा तंत्र जो है कहीं ना कहीं एक मॉडल से, किसी आइडिया से, रिकमेंडेशन से गवर्न होता है. हम क्या करें, किस तरह की परिवर्तन ला सकते हैं कि जो पूर्णा भी कह रही हैं कि ऐसे बच्चों में बहुत सारी क्रिएटिविटी है, इनक्रेडिबल थॉट्स हैं. चैनिका ने भी वही कहा कि समाज तो बदल रहा है. वसुधा भी कह रही है कि कॉर्पोरेट का जो मामला है उसमें बहुत सारे लोग अच्छे आ रहे हैं अभी भी. हाँ, रिप्रेजेंटेशन कम है. तो सवाल आपसे अंतिम ये होगा ब्रजेश जी कि हम अपने टीचर एजुकेशन में, हम अपने शिक्षक के साथ, हम अपने करिकुलम में, विद्यालय में क्या कर सकते हैं ताकि परिवर्तन एक लंबे दौर का परिवर्तन हो, वो एक ऐसा ना हो कि बस थोड़े दिन के लिए थोड़ा सा. ब्रजेश जी.
बहुत सुंदर प्रश्न आसिफ जी आपका. और परिवर्तन की जो बात की, और मैं सबसे पहले तो ये कहना चाहूंगा, जो आज हमारा जो पैनल डिस्कशन हो रहा है ये बस यहीं तक सीमित न रहे और ये आगे आगे तक जाना चाहिए, जिससे आज हमने जो यहाँ बातचीतें की हैं, जो बातचीत की है और जो जिस निष्कर्ष पर पहुंचने का प्रयास कर रहे हैं हम सब, उसको लोग समझें और उन्हें ये पता चले कि लोग भी हमारी कितनी चिंता कर रहे हैं. जहां तक परिवर्तन की बात करी, टीचर एजुकेशन की बात की, हमें ये सारी चीजें जो आज हमने डिस्कस करी हैं, किसी टीचर्स ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम में भी वहां तक हमको इसको लेकर जाना होगा. हमें हर टीचर के पास ये बात पहुंचानी होगी कि समाज किस चीज की चिंता कर रहा है, और वो आज चिंता का नहीं, एक बहुत महत्वपूर्ण विषय है जिस पर सावधानी पूर्वक हमें काम करना होगा. इसमें जैसा कि अभी हमारे और पैनलिस्ट ने बताया कि बच्चे के विचार को प्रमुखता देनी है, उसको सदैव जीवित रखना है. और नो डाउट आज मैं इस प्लेटफॉर्म से ये कह सकता हूँ, टेक महिंद्रा फाउंडेशन जिसने हमारी मोबाइल साइंस लैब जो स्कूलों तक पहुंचाने का प्रयास किया है, क्योंकि अभी सीमित संसाधन है हमारे पास, हम बातें चाहे कितनी ही कर लें, लेकिन अभी अगर ग्राउंड लेवल पर जाकर देखें तो अभी भी सीमित संसाधन है. और टीचर के पास, एक शिक्षक के पास पूरा मौका है उसको क्रियान्वित करने का. लेकिन जिस तरह से साइंस लैब बस के द्वारा, मोबाइल वैन के द्वारा स्कूल के पास तक पहुंच रही है और उसमें बच्चे सीख पा रहे हैं, और उनका जो आइडियाज आते हैं उसको फिर जब क्लासरूम में टीचर डिस्कस करे और वहां से अपनी प्रॉब्लम लेकर अपने ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम में जाए, एजुकेशन जहां पर वो ट्रेनिंग ले रहा है, इन सर्विस टीचर्स ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम में जाए और वहां पर ये क्वेरीज को दूर करे, और मिलकर के हम सबका एक यही प्रयास होना चाहिए कि हमारा केवल एक डेवलपमेंट है वो बच्चे का, कि बच्चे का डेवलपमेंट कैसे हो, और उसमें सोसाइटी का क्या रोल हो सकता है, एक टीचर का क्या रोल हो सकता है, और उसके पेरेंट्स का क्या रोल हो सकता है. जब तीनों चीज एक स्मूथली एक ट्रैक पे होंगी तो नो डाउट हम अपनी लड़कियों को, अपनी बच्चियों को आगे बढ़ने से नहीं रोक सकते. और कोई ऐसा काम नहीं है, कोई ऐसा काम नहीं है, मैंने तो उस पर गंभीर चिंतन भी किया, हम अपना अवलोकन, आत्मावलोकन भी करना चाहिए कि ऐसा कोई काम नहीं है जो लड़कियां नहीं कर सकती हो, बस उसको पर्याप्त अवसर और मौकों को देने की आवश्यकता है. टीचर्स ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम में इस तरह के पी सेशंस होने चाहिए, जिससे टीचर एक अच्छी सोच और समझ के साथ अपने विद्यालयों में जाएं और बच्चों के साथ बात करें.
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद ब्रजेश जी. माफ कीजिएगा, टाइम कम है, हम तो और भी सुनना चाहते थे सबसे. पूर्णा, चैनिका एंड वसुधा, एनी लास्ट थॉट which you feel like for just 30-second thought or 1 minute thought would you like to express towards bridging the gap? Okay, so thank you so much, panelists. It was such a wonderful thing, and I was just amazed to find that how much this kind of conversation really helps for us, and that becomes an eye-opener. At the closure of this immensely helpful panel discussion by you eminent panelists, it is clear that women in STEM have great potential to change the world, and it is expected that teachers, parents, society as a whole, they have urge, and they can motivate the girls to grow up to the proud women in science. And on this day of International Day of Women and Girls in Science Assembly, let us join hands to empower women and all those underrepresented community in the society to chase their dreams and break free from the restraints of society, so that we can also have so many Sudha Murthy's, so many Dr. Kiran Mazumdar, so many Tessie Thomas. Thank you very much, all the panelists. Back to Rupsha.
Thank you so much, Asif, for moderating such an insightful discussion. We have indeed gathered a lot of insights from our eminent panelists. Thank you, Poorna, for sharing your story from the US about not finding enough women and innovators in textbooks. We often overlook the contribution of women, and that unfortunately gets reflected in mainstream textbooks. But once we start exploring this dimension, or jaise Brajesh ji ne bhi kaha, it's almost like the sky is the limit. On that note, I would like to bring in two people into this conversation who are extremely special. This discussion will not be complete without listening to the voices of the beneficiaries, women themselves who have steered their ambition of pursuing skill building in the field of digital technologies and are looking forward to building their careers in the same. As we all know that the world of tech has been predominantly seen a ratio that is skewed towards men. And as Vasudha had also mentioned during the discussion, while we do see encouraging numbers when it comes to women enrolling in this field, the retention becomes, however, a challenge. And this results in a lack of representation of the latter in the field. But it is encouraging to find greater number of women wanting to build careers in the same and bringing in the much needed gender balance in this domain. So let me connect with our team in Visakhapatnam, where we have our Tech Mahindra Smart Academy for Digital Technologies, and tune in to listen to the journey of our women beneficiaries. Let me welcome Ms. Lalita to take forward this discussion.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a privilege to be here in this group also. I'm Lalita and I'm a soft skills trainer. English also I teach. And I'm from Tech Mahindra Academy, Smart Academy, Visakhapatnam. So I have with me two beneficiaries, Sunita and Harika. So here they would give their experiences and what challenges they have faced in life till date while joining or changing their career or transforming their career or into digital technologies. Right. So she's Harika and she is Sunita.
Good morning. Good morning. Very good afternoon.
What motivated you of pursuing this course in the field of digital technologies?
First of all, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Harika. I'm a graduate in the stream of computer science engineering. I worked in a BPO for about 1 year, and parallelly, I've done my master's in human resource management. As always, I wanted to be independent. I want to restart my career after my marriage. So with guidance of one of my faculty, I came to know about Tech Mahindra Smart Academy. And also, as I'm passionate about designing, I've chosen UI UX designing as my career. What about you, Sunita? What motivated you?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sunita, and I did my post-graduation in chemistry. Because of my health issues, I decided to switch my career into different field, like digital technologies. So I asked my brother for his suggestion. He suggested me about Tech Mahindra Foundation. Later on, I came and visited Tech Mahindra Foundation. They guided me about courses and which course have been benefited. And so I decided to become a software developer and I joined in Java development course.
Great. That was a wonderful transformation, both of you. Right. What has been your experience so far throughout your journey to come to Tech Mahindra Smart Academy?
Yeah, as a chemistry student, I used to know element means like hydrogen, oxygen, helium. But after joining in this course, element means something different, like HTML tag, which is the root for every HTML document. That is the main. So I have to learn from the basics. Even though I know basics of computers, but I have to know coding knowledge. So faculty over here very knowledge and resourceful person, and they are very coordinate with us, and they train me to know from the basics of coding. So now I'm very much confident that I can get a job in any MNC company.
Yes,
And
yes, Sunita, you're right. The faculty over here are very much kind and cooperative. The doubts are being clarified with good live examples. And also coming to the infrastructure, we have excellent ambience, cafeteria facilities, and also like washroom facilities. And we also have separate classrooms for theoretical sessions, and we have labs for practical sessions. Also, we get enough time for our practical sessions. We discuss with each other and work as a team. And also the environment is very friendly. Students are also very friendly. I can easily mingle with them, and I'm very happy to be here.
That's wonderful to hear, both of you. Right. So, whether did you face any challenges at home or in the society throughout your journey till date?
No, definitely no. I haven't faced any of the challenges at home or in the society. Especially in South India, women are encouraged to work and to be independent. There is no gender bias. And also, restarting my career is the only, after my marriage, is the only biggest challenge for me. But as I belong to CS background, I'm very much confident about my journey into IT industry. So,
coming to me, about in society, I never faced any challenges, but coming to my home means I came from a small village, over 800 people over there, and the people used to think that whatever the amount we are spending on studies for a girl child, we can spend that money on their marriage so that we can relieve from our responsibility. So people think like that. To come over like the people coming over from that place, for me it is the biggest challenge for me to convince my parents to come to study my higher, to complete my higher studies and to go for job for different place. So this is the biggest challenge for me.
I think that's really a challenge for you. So, what do you foresee in the future in this digital world regarding jobs?
No, I didn't, because I came to know digital technologies. Nowadays, they're completely digital, globally digital technologies are advanced. And after knowing about the opportunities only, I decided to switch my career into digital technologies. So I haven't, I don't think this is in future we have never faced any challenges regarding our job opportunities. And I think that equally there are opportunities for girl and gents also, as long as we learn something different from and advanced technology, as long as we learned.
yes, Sunita, I agree with you. I don't see any foresee any challenges in the upcoming job roles, because as we keep on updating ourselves with latest technologies like artificial intelligence, web development, so our career growth, we'll have a rapid growth in our career. And also we'll be people from different streams are migrating to IT industries, as there is scope for good growth. Also, they pay higher salaries. And so if we gain proper good experience and proper knowledge on the upcoming technologies, we'll be having like we can reach to higher positions within no time. Thank you
Thank you, Tech Mahindra Foundation, for giving us this opportunity.
Thank you very much. I think that's a very safe journey they had, of course, in spite of having so many challenges. And the girls coming out into this digital technologies. Yes, at Tech Mahindra Smart Academy, we have a good number of girls who are opting for digital technologies, which is a great change. In fact, they are strong enough in their mind, no matter, if they're married and they have some disturbances, and even if they're from villages where, remote villages where they don't have any facilities, but still they're coming out and this is one thing. Yes, Tech Mahindra Foundation has created this opportunity, and children are taking advantage of this opportunity. That's a great career they're building, and all the best. God bless you, children. And thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to sit with the beneficiaries. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lalita. And thank you, Harika and Sunita, for sharing your journey with us. Listening to you both, thank you, has been absolutely inspiring. And of course, as women, we have to be wary of so many different challenges. But despite it all, you both have come on top, and you're certainly our role models. I'm sure all of us have been able to learn a lot from you both, and wishing you all the best for the future.
Thank you very much.
On that note, I'm sure there's a lot of food for thought left to our audience members, and they must be eagerly waiting to ask some questions. So let's move to a quick Q&A round, and let me invite Asif to take this forward.
Thank you very much, Rupsha. I have gotten a few questions, although I may be able to stick a few only. So there is a question for Vasudha. What more needs to be done in schools to make STEM more inclusive for girls? What can they do to better equip the girls to enter the field of STEM? Vasudha, hope you are. Yeah.
Yes. No, I think to make more women enter STEM, I think a lot more programs, a lot is already being done, but more on, career guidance on, like we heard from both the beneficiaries at Visakhapatnam, you enter something, first of all, challenging many odds. They've, taken their parents' money to study, but then to find out what are fields that they may enjoy, where there is, good employment. For that, I think more career guidance, and sensitization to options at the school level, right from say grade 8 or grade 9, is something that must reach rural schools, in a bigger way. I think that will give them more ideas on what they could do.
Thank you. One question for you, Purna. Have you noticed some challenges faced by girls while you were working with digital technologies, given their societal constraints?
Yes, I think communication is one big challenge, particularly for girls. I think somebody had mentioned it earlier that girls are told to be docile, be quiet, and just getting, I think it doesn't matter what stream you pick up. Confidence and the ability to communicate is the key, right? You might have knowledge, but if you can't communicate it, that's a huge challenge. So I think one challenge that we try very hard throughout our coursework is building confidence in kids, and that requires giving opportunities. In any classroom, if we just open the door and include girls and boys in conversations and listen to their questions, I think we'll make huge headway. It requires a collective effort from both educational institutes, corporates, employers, and you and me, all of us as individuals, to create an environment that welcomes women and slightly and slowly remove these barriers, both discrete and non-discrete barriers that has been with us for so many generations. So it's going to take time, but I have a lot of hope in India because we do see women leaders stepping up, and we need to use them as role models, right? So I think there's a lot of hope, and change is definitely here. COVID did that for us.
Thank you, Purna. So one common question, and that will be the last question for this panel discussion QA round, that is common for Chainika as well as Brajeshi. Question is, are we making our students independent thinker? क्या हम बच्चों को क्या हम उनको एक स्वतंत्र चिंतन के लिए स्कूल में प्रेरित करते हैं? पहले सुन लेते हैं ब्रजेशी से और फिर वापस हम आ जाएंगे क्विकली चैनिका पे। आप ब्रीफली सर बताइए।
हाँ, बच्चों को हम जब स्वतंत्र चिंतन की बात करते हैं तो उसमें बच्चों के साथ सबसे पहले जो ग्रोथ माइंडसेट का कॉन्सेप्ट है ना, वो हमें बच्चों के अंदर डेवलप करना होगा। और ग्रोथ माइंडसेट तब बच्चों के अंदर डेवलप होगा जब टीचर कोई अपनी बात बच्चा रखता है और फ्री छोड़ दे, अपना एक आइडिया दिया और बच्चे का विचार आने दें और उस पर अपनी बात बच्चे को रखने दें। जब बच्चा अपनी बात रखेगा तो उससे क्या होगा कि बच्चे की जो सीखने और समझने की क्षमता है वो बढ़ेगी। टीचर को केवल एक आइडिया को एक्सचेंज करना है और अपने ट्रैक पे लाना है। विचार बच्चे का और आइडिया अपना, उसमें लगा के जब बच्चे के पास हम वापस भेजेंगे तो मैं समझता हूँ बच्चे के अंदर जो एक आत्मविश्वास की बात है, जो कॉन्फिडेंस का लेवल है, वो वहीं से अप होना स्टार्ट होगा। और बच्चा, फिर मैं वो एक बार लास्ट चलते चलते कहना चाहूंगा कि बच्चा कोई भी आपके सामने कैसा ही लाए, उसको प्लीज अप्रिशिएट कीजिए। केवल सही डायरेक्शन की तरफ ले जाने की आवश्यकता है। बच्चे का आत्मविश्वास, कॉन्फिडेंस लेवल हमेशा जीवित रहने दें और बच्चे को खिलता हुआ, मुस्कुराता हुआ विद्यालय तक आने दें, और जिससे कि उसकी आगे की रास्ता बढ़ती जाएगी।
थैंक यू।
कदम अपने आसानी से बढ़ाता जाएगा। थैंक यू।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद ब्रजेश जी। चैनिका, लास्ट कमेंट from you. How do we make our girls or marginalized community, women, or other sexes, as an independent thinker?
So I think that if we listen to children, we'll let them be independent thinkers.
Okay.
The problem in our society and in our classrooms and everywhere else is that we want to make people listen to authority. I don't think that's the way it will work. Authority will have to listen to those that they are having authority over. And that's a big shift for parents, for teachers, for school people, for people who are making curriculum. I think listening to the child is something that has to be learned and has to be shifted everywhere. That will definitely help.
Thank you so much. Incredible. So, Chanika, and everyone who participated in this panel discussion, I must thank Purna, Brajeshi, Chanika, Vasudha. It was such an incredible discussion, and many thoughts have come on the way to transform our country as well as society. और मैं इसको हिंदी में भी थोड़ा सा कह देना चाहता हूँ, और मुझे लगता है ज़रूरी है कि आज इस क्लोजर पर हम लोग पैनल डिस्कशन के साथ साथ आप सभी लोगों ने अपना समय दिया, और उसके साथ जो हम टीचर्स हैं, पेरेंट्स हैं, समाज है, उसका जो बच्चों को अगर सुनने दें, बच्चों की बातों को हम उसको प्राथमिकता दें, और फिर उनके लिए सहज वातावरण जब स्कूल में हम बनाएं और फिर समाज के साथ काम करें, तो वो दिन दूर नहीं है कि हम भी एक बेहतर समाज का निर्माण कर सकेंगे। और फिर हमारे लिए जिस हम 21वीं सदी के भारत की हम बात करते हैं, और जिसमें हम सचमुच में एक बड़े पैमाने पर परिवर्तन की उम्मीद कर रहे हैं, साइंस, टेक्नोलॉजी, इंजीनियरिंग एंड मैथमेटिक्स में, वो फलीभूत होगा। आप सबका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। बैक टू रूपशा।
Thank you so much. And with that, we have reached the end of the event. And what a brilliant way to close this conversation. Thank you once again to all the panelists and our lovely students, Harika and Sunita, for sharing such important insights. While we understand that it's not feasible to expect all the answers from this small interaction, definitely it's a more continued conversation. And yet we have still drawn some very important pointers from such an enriching session. If you have more questions, or if you want to continue this further, you may also reach out to us via email at events@techmahindrafoundation.org. And with that, I would like to invite my colleague Ghulam Mehdi Shah to deliver the vote of thanks.
Speaker. Thank you, Rupsha. Good afternoon to one and all present here with us today. Esteemed keynote speaker for today, Dr. Madhav Chavan, the eminent panelists, Ms. Purna Mukesh, Dr. Chenika Shah, Mr. Brijesh Kumar Jadhav, Ms. Vasudha Narasimhan, and all the teachers, facilitators, and the participants. It's an honor for me to get the opportunity to give the word of thanks to all the dignitaries on the behalf of Tech Mahindra Foundation. I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to all the panelists who have graced us with their valuable insights and experiences on the topic of women's participation in STEM, the barriers they face and the opportunities available to them. Your contribution has made this online panel discussion an enriching and enlightening experience for everyone who attended. I would also like to thank our audience for their active participation and thought-provoking questions. Your engagement and interest in this critical issue is a testament to the importance of creating a more inclusive and diverse STEM community. We are quite motivated to see some clear action points in the form of key takeaways as a part of this engaging session. Finally, I would like to express my gratitude to my colleagues at Tech Mahindra Foundation for their contribution in making the 10th edition of SAAJHI SAMAJH a smooth and seamless experience. Once again, a huge thank you to all. Until we meet next with another exciting edition of SAAJHI SAMAJH. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.